Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Success Shift. It's Friday, and boy, what a day. What a week it's been. I don't know about you guys listening, but whenever I have a holiday coming up, I try to play it cool, calm and collected. But usually the day or two before I get all angsty and excited and like a little child, even though I've been on many trips and traveled for a while, it still brings me joy and happiness. And I'm always grateful that I get the opportunity to go travel to a new place. Actually, I've been to this place before, but it's still very exciting. And so today's been, that scramble trying to get all the work, dotting all the I's, crossing all the T's, all that sort of stuff. And then, just getting my head wrapped around packing and all that sort of exciting stuff that comes along with trips and holidays and everything travel. So today I'm very grateful for the opportunity to go traveling, and B, the opportunity to take my family, my little man, 8 months, first time going on a plane, first time camping, first time on holiday, international trip, all things exciting. So yeah, it's just been lovely, energetic, chaos, all the wonderful things. But I am really, really grateful, really, really happy, and really, really excited to be here with you today, yet again, to finish off the week. And yeah, like I said at the start of the week, we're getting close to episode 100, which I'm super proud of. I can't believe that we're here 100 episodes later, almost. It was something that I just started, and I said I'm going to fail forward and fail hilariously. And if you go back and listen to episode 1 and a few interviews I did at the start, you'll see how rough and rugged they were. And then to think here we are, you know, um, it would almost be a year later with pauses in between, but 6 months consecutive or so that we've been running these calls. So thank you very much, everyone that shows up. Thank you for everyone who's listening on the podcast. It's very much appreciated. This week we have been talking about self-sabotage, and self-sabotage really is something that gets a lot of people. And I feel like, and I was thinking about this yesterday after our call, self-sabotage is one of those things that just kind of is your body's way of keeping you in your comfort zone. We speak about our comfort zone a lot and how you've got to break out of your comfort zone. And then, that's where true growth starts to happen. But I feel like once you start to try and fight that comfort zone, like that barrier, that's when this self-sabotage comes in. And I think it has a lot to do with your subconscious and, the fear of success, the fear of failure. We spoke about all these things on Tuesday and a bit on Thursday. And I think it's in the name, like I said yesterday, self-sabotage. It's all about self-awareness, knowing yourself. So I think when we look into how to break out of this cycle of self-sabotage, the best way to look at it is, what is it that I'm scared of? And what is it that I don't like? What part of me wants to stay in this comfort zone? Is it I'm uncomfortable with being challenged? I'm uncomfortable with change. I'm uncomfortable with growth. I'm uncomfortable with more money. Whatever's making you uncomfortable, that's probably where the root cause of the self-sabotage is coming from. And we were talking about the domino effect yesterday and how, it can kind of be hidden in other areas. So say you get stressed about money and you self-sabotage your health, and it's kind of like a loop. And so finding a way to, bring awareness to all the areas of your life to really weed out what this core belief is that's keeping you in this self-sabotaging loop. And I really believe that, not for everyone, of course, but for a majority of people, it's just one kind of core reason. And it's like a weed in a garden, if you don't get all the roots out and get all the weeds out, then it just comes back and grows. And I think that we really need to try and find, and this is the problem, lots of people just pull the surface off and go, yeah, it's all hidden, it's all gone. But really the problem's, deeper in the earth. And you want to try and get all the roots out and try and get all of the core beliefs and like hit them head on. We spoke about the buffalo mindset, cozy up to your obstacles, hit your core beliefs head on. What is it that's making me uncomfortable? What is it that I'm starting to feel a bit worried about? And attack that. Go straight at it and just fully face it and go, why am I feeling like this? How can I start to bring this to the surface? Because so much of the time we kind of sweep things under the rug. We do what the cows do, and we see it and we kind of just move away from it or move around it. And the best and fastest way to make growth is just attack these issues head on. And so finish off this week with our discussion on self-sabotage, I wanted to talk about a few ways which I think can help get through that. But I mean, to be perfectly honest, they're all kind of, I don't want to say self-explanatory, but they're all what we talk about a lot. And it's just a matter of doing the work. If you've got something that's stopping you, if you've got something that's withholding you, I feel like often people will spend a lot of time in the learning phase. How can I deal with this problem? How can I sort it? How can I do this? And that's great, get your research, but then actually do the work. Take what you learn, do the practice, do the exercises, actually write stuff down, do the journaling, write your lists and do the comparisons, put the things up on the board that people tell you to do. All these exercises, like, they're good to listen to, but the actual solutions come from doing them. And the reason I say this is because I know for me, a lot of the time I'd listen to people, I'd read books, and they'd be like, you should go do this exercise. And this is what really helped me. And I'd be like, yeah, that's a really good exercise. I should do that. And then I never do it. And for ages, I was taking in a lot of information, but not actually doing much of the work. And this is an analogy I got from Fraser Brooks, who's great in network marketing. And he says that, to move forward, you need to use both feet. Learn, action, learn, action, learn, action. Now, if all you are is learning ways and just going one way, you end up going around in circles. And if all you're doing is taking action and not actually learning anything, you end up going around in circles as well. So you've got to learn a bit, take action on it, learn a bit, take action on it. And so the reason I bring this up is because when I was writing a list of things that can really help, what I believe can really help with self-sabotage in my research, they were all just stuff that I have kind of mentioned before. The number one is journaling. And it's more about journaling more than the complete issue. So in trading, we journal our emotions. But what I recommend if you're struggling with self-sabotage is to spend 10 minutes. So spend 20 minutes afterwards going over, objectively reviewing, writing out your journal, writing out your emotions, but then spend a further 10, 20 minutes journaling about how you feel about them. So not so much about the trading side, but more about the personal side, like what was happening today in my life? Like, how do I feel about these results? Do I feel lucky that I got these results, or was I actually disciplined? And have that conversation with yourself, but written, because writing is the connection between the conscious and the subconscious. You start with a thought and then you kind of discuss with yourself subconsciously, and that brings up some of these issues. And that's the fastest way to get down to these core beliefs. So the very first one is just journaling about the overall. So journaling, and this can be for anything. Say you come home from work every day and you're miserable. Journal about that and see what else was going on that made me miserable at work. Was it actually some person at work? Was it the work lifestyle? Was it, I don't know, the commute to work is always gray and that makes me sad? Like, start to think about these other things, because when we realize we're self-sabotaging, like I said yesterday, it could be something else that's deeper, that we're really actually upset about, and we just have outer kind of mechanisms to cope with that self-sabotage. And that is, like I said, I'm not doing well with money, I'm stressed, so therefore I self-sabotage my health and my fitness. Just an example. So the next one I want to talk to you about is, this is an exercise I got from, I can't remember his name. I listened to a lot of his stuff on YouTube and I cannot remember his name. I apologize. But basically, he's talking about recognizing your core beliefs. So writing down a list of these negative core beliefs that you have, and then associating the negative self-talk with it. Okay, what do you say? What do you think about yourself when you're by yourself? And trying to associate the core belief with the way you talk about it and the words you say. And then you want to write out the opposite to that. And so let's say my core belief is that, I don't know, I'm short, so therefore I'm married now, but I'm short, so I'll never get a girlfriend. And then you can write out the opposite of that, like, people love me for who I am, not for my height. And so when this negative thought comes into your head, you've now got a positive thought to associate with it. And so when you're like, oh, I'm never going to get, it's like, actually, no, that's just my subconscious self-sabotage. Why don't I link this thought? So pattern interruption, pattern recognition, we talk about this all the time. So pattern recognition, the negative self-talk, but now automatically having a positive self-talk that you can switch it out with. So rather than spiraling down with the negative self-talk, you actually have a list of positive kind of affirmations or positive things to say to yourself when that negative talk comes in. And most of the time, this positive self-talk is actually the truth, whereas the negative self-talk is usually far-fetched and just something that's come from the core beliefs that from when you're much, much younger, and is emotional based and not logic based. So then you want to find the evidence for each. So find proof as to why people won't want to be with me because of my height, and then find proof that people will want to because people deserve to be loved. I mean, it's probably not the best example, but you get my point. So you want to find proof for the negative and proof for the positive, because like I said, most often the proof for the negative is pretty much going to be bullshit, and the proof for the positive is going to be very justifiable and very understandable. Okay. And then once you've done that, what are the consequences of, these actions that I have towards it? So when I'm speaking negative to myself, what are the consequences of that? And when I speak positive to myself, what are the consequences of that? And you'll soon see that the consequences of speaking negative yourself are really not any good, but the consequences of speaking positive yourself usually grow and blossom into many good things. Okay. So this was like a little exercise of negative self-talk to help with the self-sabotage and being able to supplement negative self-talk with positive self-talk. The next one I wanted to talk about was the way you rationalize things. And so let's say you've got a positive experience. Then what happens is we usually have a negative feeling. This is where the self-sabotage comes in. Something positive happens, and we usually go straight to a negative feeling. That's how we know that we're self-sabotaging, because we're taking a positive experience, turning it negative. How? By our thoughts and our feelings and our expression. Okay? So when we have a positive experience, if we're struggling to feel good about it and struggling to see the good side and struggling to be happy and proud and positive about it, we should write down the feelings that we're having because of this positive experience and why they're negative. So let's say you make a good trade, right? Rather than going, yeah, okay, well done, Jake, you analyze that well, you know what you're doing, that's great. You go, oh, that was lucky. Shouldn't have got that trade. That was lucky. So automatically you're dismissing the skill set and the stuff that you've learned and your knowledge for luck. Why are we doing this? You can start thinking, okay, why am I dismissing myself? Why am I dismissing my good, positive experience? But then let's find the opposite to that. And so when we've got the negative, oh, that was lucky, be like, no, actually, that was well analyzed. You know what you're doing. You've been doing this for a while. You can see reasons why that was good. And then you can also objectively say, actually, there was a couple of reasons why maybe I shouldn't. And next time I can learn from that. But the whole point of this is to take the positive experience, and rather than jumping straight to negative self-talk, negative feelings, negative emotions, observing what we're doing to ourselves, because so often, more often than not, this is almost automatic. We have this self-sabotaging process, which has been building up and building up and building up over time. And so these behaviors are very automatic. We have something and we want to shut it down. We want to self-sabotage it. So we start with the negative self-talk. We look for the reasons why it's not really realistic. We look for luck. We look for other things that can justify why, we don't deserve the good gratitude and the good, what's the word? Gone blank. The recognition that we deserve for what we've done. And so we want to try and shift our behavior and shift our talk and shift our emotions and feelings and thoughts to be encouraging and to be promoting rather than being destructive and, I guess, debilitating. Does that make sense? Chuck some ones in the chat if you're following along. I know it's a bit complicated, especially verbally. And also chuck your gratitude in the chat, because I kind of skipped straight over that because I was running a little bit late this morning. So, yeah. So first one is journaling the overall experience. The second one is writing out your negative core beliefs, writing out the negative self-talk, and then writing the opposite to that negative self-talk. And then again, this last one is the positive experiences. When you have a positive experience, write down the feelings and thoughts that you have with that positive experience, and then write down something for next time you can remind yourself of the truth, what the reality is, and why your negative feelings and your negative self-talk and your negative and your self-sabotage is not actually true. And then you can hopefully try and justify yourself out of continuing to do that. So the last one I wanted to bring up is maybe carrying around a tiny little notebook. I have one somewhere, but I can't find it at the moment. And you can just use that to jot down little things that kind of trigger you. So I don't know about you, but there was times in my life where I would be in a situation and someone would say something. It would be very small and kind of under the cuff and not really intended for anything, but it would bring out a lot of emotion in me. And I couldn't quite figure out why. But when someone does a particular thing, like maybe they cut you off in traffic and you just get completely outraged. You go off and you're like, this is ridiculous. You can't cut me off. And you take off with all your emotions and frustration. Usually, if someone was to do that, the actual act itself isn't necessarily a bad thing, but what's happening inside of you is you kind of using that as an outlet, or you're associating a bunch of other things with that experience, and then you're releasing or clinging on to past memories, and it's making you much more emotional than it should. So having this little, whatever you want to call it, little pad or little notebook, and then just writing down those either words or situations which bring up a lot of negative emotion, especially if you're self-sabotaging. You want to bring up a lot of situations where you're negatively talking to yourself, where you're going down the rabbit hole, or whether you're turning a positive situation to a negative one because of either a phrase or a word or a certain circumstance. And then we want to try and track these, and over time see, is there something reoccurring that's bringing this emotion? Is there someone that's bringing this emotion? Is there some words or some phrases? And when we can figure out what they are, we can start to go deep. Why are these things the things that are frustrating me? And vice versa. If there's something that's positive and you've got things that are bringing in really good emotion to you, like maybe you walk past your neighbor's house and you see them watering the garden and they've got some nice flowers there, and every time it puts a smile on your face. Jot that stuff down, because these are the kinds of things that when you're in a negative self place, or you start to self-sabotage, or you're going through like a negative spiral of negative self-talk, go for a walk past your neighbor's house. See the lovely flower that they keep watering that brings you joy. You want to understand your environment and your triggers and your behaviors so that you can work with them and not against them. If you've got all these things that are creating self-sabotage, negative self-talk, and frustration, try to remove them from your environment and try to switch them with things that bring positive joy and happiness. I mean, it seems pretty self-explanatory, but sometimes we just get stuck in our routine. We don't really pick up, and we don't bring self-awareness, and we don't try to learn ourselves to the point where we go, hang on, this dead flower that I left that's been sitting on my desk for 3 weeks brings me frustration every time I see that it's dead, because it reminds me that I couldn't water the plant, for example. So let's get rid of it, remove it, buy a new one, put something there, put a fake plant there that makes you happy because at least it's green and, puts a smile on your face. It's really about understanding yourself in your environment and what affects you, because I could be in your environment and be gleaming with joy and happiness, but it makes you sad, and vice versa. I could be in your happy place and feel horrible and miserable, because we are made up of our past experiences, the emotions we hold onto them. So everyone has a different buildup of chemical emotion, basically, relative to an experience. So learn your environment, learn what triggers you, learn what makes you happy, bring self-awareness and self-knowledge into yourself so that we can figure out why we're self-sabotaging, the core beliefs that we have that are rooting these self-sabotaging behaviors, and start to just work through them, hit them head on. That buffalo mindset, just go at your issues as hard as you can and try and work through them rather than covering them up and just burying them under the dirt. A lot of planting metaphors. I think it's because I got 2 new plants in my room yesterday. So that's where that's coming from. Does that make sense to everybody? I hope it does. Like I said, this week's been very chaotic. Lots of talk about self-sabotage, because this is the number one thing that I hear from people listening to this podcast and people on this call, is that they're finding themselves in this self-sabotaging cycle. We want to try and break free from that. We want to try and do the exercises that tell us more about ourselves so that we can change the environment both externally and internally so that we can reduce this self-sabotage, trade with a more peaceful and mindful calmness. That was the other thing. Sorry. The last thing on my list was mindfulness. So doing meditation, bringing awareness to the mind, because often when our emotions and our negative self-talk spiral, they start to feed off each other. And if you can pattern recognize, pattern interrupt, maybe breathe, bring mindfulness, bring attention to the breath, slow everything down and realize, actually, that's just my mind running off on a tangent to make me feel a certain way. Let's ignore that and put some positive thoughts or positive talk or whatever you want to do into the mind. Then having that moment of, hang on, I'm going down the path. Let's just stop. Mindfulness, back to the breath, back to the, the calm area that you are and try and think logical. So the last thing was mindfulness that I forgot on this list. So I hope that makes sense. I know this is a bit of a short episode because I was stuck in a meeting before coming here, but self-sabotage really can be a never-ending loop. And until you start to learn yourself and start to figure out why you're self-sabotaging and what it actually is that's causing this self-sabotage, then you can be stuck in it for a long time. And usually the key lies with what makes you uncomfortable. What changes make you uncomfortable? Because change is growth, and feeling uncomfortable is usually the first sign of change. Okay? So try some of those exercises. I hope they have been helpful. During COVID, I really had to do this to find positive joy experience. Yeah, exactly. Positive, joyful experiences, because in COVID, things were locked down and things could find miserable, and you could take the happy place and turn it into a sad place just because of being stuck in that situation. Thank you, Jake. Have a wonderful holiday. Yes, I will. Thank you, everyone listening. Thank you for everyone who shows up. Grateful for the sunshine and the technology that brings wonderful things into my space from far away, especially my partner. Oh, that's lovely. Have a peaceful day. Breathe deep often. I love that. Thank you very much. I'm off for 2 weeks. So for those listening on the podcast, I'll be back in a couple of weeks. We have some interviews coming back. We have new things happening on the show. And yeah, I'm super excited. Thank you, everyone who's been supporting me. We're continuously growing. If you like this podcast and you're getting value out of it, please send it. Copy the link and chuck it on your Facebook. Send it to friends. Send it to other traders who you think might benefit from some of this mindset, because I really want to try and get this awareness out to as many people as we can, so that many people, especially traders, can trade with a more calm and peaceful mindset and get the results that we all want. Okay? So to our traders, I will see you on the call in just a couple of minutes. To people listening on the podcast, much love. And I will speak to you all in a couple of weeks because I'm off to Sweden. But for now, peace out. We'll speak soon.